అందరికీ నమస్కారములు. సర్వేభ్యో నమస్కారః. గురుభ్యో నమః. శ్రీ మహాగణాధిపతయే నమః. శ్రీ సరస్వత్యే నమః. Today is the fifth day of our classes on Dharma Sastras. First 3 days we have seen what are the Dharma Shastras, what are the definitions and various aspects related to the literature concerning Dharma Shastras. And yesterday we have seen some Dharma related issues projected in Mahabharata. And today also we will continue the same session by Nithin Sridhar ji. We will start this session with reciting Vande Mataram and paying our respects to our country, and then proceed with Prarthana. Let us request Challa Chittibabu Garu to recite Vande Mataram, please.
Vande Mataram, Vande Mataram, Sujalam Sufalam, Malayajasitalam, Sasya Syamalam Mataram, Vande Mataram. Subrajosna pulakitayamini pullakusumita drumadala shobhini suhasini sumadhura bhashini sukhadam varadam mataram vande mataram Vande Mataram.
వందే మాతరం. ధన్యవాదములండి చల్లా చిట్టిబాబు గారు. థ్యాంక్ యూ సో మచ్. నౌ ప్రొసీడింగ్ ఫర్దర్, లెట్ us request జయశ్రీ గారు టు చాంట్ ప్రార్థన, ప్లీజ్.
అందరికీ నమస్కారాలు. 1 minute మెడిటేషన్, దెన్ 3 times ఓంకారం, దెన్ ప్రార్థన. त्वा गणपतिगुं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमम् ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणस्पत आन शृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनम् ॐ श्रीमहागणाधिपतये नमः। ॐ प्रणो देवी सरस्वती वाजेभिर्वाजिनीवती धीनामविद्र्यवतो। ॐ श्रीमहासरस्वत्यै नमः। गुरुरेव गतिः गुरुमेव भजे गुरुणैव सहास्मि नमो गुरवे न गुरोः परमं शिशुरस्मि गुरोः मतिरस्ति गुरौ मां पाहि गुरो ज्ञानानन्दमयं देवं निर्मलस्फटिकाकृतिम् आधारं सर्वविद्यानां हयग्रीवमुपास्महे श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादशङ्करं लोकशङ्करम् शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणम् सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतङ्गमय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः मातृदेवो भव पितृदेवो भव आचार्यदेवो भव अतिथिदेवो भव ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ ధన్యవాదాలు గురుగారు అందరికీ నమస్కారాలు
శ్రీ గురుభ్యో నమః హరి ఓం ధన్యవాదములండి జయశ్రీ గారు
ధన్యవాదాలు సార్
థ్యాంక్ యూ సో మచ్ నౌ లెట్ us request our Guruji Sridhar ji to start the webinar, please.
Thank you very much. Shubhodaya, good morning. Let me begin with prayer. Vakratunda Mahakaya Koti Surya Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakareshu Sarvata Jayanti Mangala Kali Vitrakali Kapalini Durgakshama Shivadhatri Swaha Sudha Namaste Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. We will continue the discussion about some key ideas on Dharma in Mahabharata. Let me share my screen. In yesterday's session, we saw about characteristics of Dharma, such as Prabhava, Dharana, Ahimsa, Adroha, etc. We also saw how, through the voice of Yudhishthira, Mahabharata problematized or brought forth the relativization of dharma as far as practice or implementation is concerned, which happens to be so because of the complex nature of life. And then through the voice of Bhishma, it resolved this issue by showing that because of the complex nature of the life and therefore a specific kind of resolution needed in life, this in itself does not make the dharma pramanas inauthentic. Apramana. It doesn't make them apramana. So because it would appear, so the problematization that Yudhishthira did was that there is no way for us to know what is dharma for sure, because they're based on context and everything, things keep changing. So Bhishma resolved this, responded by saying that basing upon the dharma pramana such as Shruti Smriti Sadachara, one has to bring in the element of buddhi, the element of atmatushti, to understand these pramanas so that all the doubts are removed, and then distill the knowledge from these pramanas and contextualize this distilled knowledge to address the any issue that we are facing in life, right? So this is how Mahabharata deals with the problem of arising from relativization. Now moving forward, Mahabharata in one place has a very excellent account on Shila. This is also in the Shanti Parva. Shila is a very well embedded concept as well as Hindu psyche is concerned, Hindu mind is concerned, except for the contemporary tendency to throw all sort of Shila in the air for pursuit of unrestrained pursuit of artha and kama, which is being promoted in the contemporary discourse as the pursuit of freedom. So that is why you see every other day news coming up everywhere about some group of people sexually molesting some women, some girls, or some women taking advantage of their marriage, trying to use marriage as a weapon against the husband, trying to use divorce as a weapon against the husband to extort. So you see all these news is coming day in and day out, where people are throwing away Sheila. But this was not so even, say, 50 years, 100 years before. Sheila has been a very, very important aspect of Hindu moral education, Hindu psyche. It is part of our very mental setup, civilizational mental setup, I would say. And so let us study have a deep understanding of what Sheila is. Generally, when we use the term Sheila, we all understand it to be having a meaning, something related to a good nature, a good character. Usually, character is usually Sheila is translated as a good character. So, but it could also mean disposition, nature, character, tendency, inclination, habit, custom, virtue, morality, good conduct, virtuous life, chastity, uprightness. See, all these are different layers or different dimensions of the term Sheila. In Mahabharata, we get a very interesting account wherein it posits Shila as the source of all virtues. Shila as the source of all virtues, all happiness, and all prosperity. Right? It narrates a wonderful account of Prahalada. We are all familiar with Prahalada, the Asura emperor. So it narrates a very interesting account of Prahalada and Indra in the Shanti Parva. I just mentioned here a summarized version of that account as given in the Chaturvedi Badrinathji's book. This is basically a summarized account of the larger story mentioned in the Mahabharata. So I'll just read out this account as it is. Prahalada had achieved so great a coherence within himself that he had come to possess immense power of benevolence. Through that very power, he had conquered the three worlds, including that of the Devatas, replacing Indra. Chakra means Indra in the celestial office. The chakra here is used as the name of the being who occupied the position of Indra. So replacing Prahalada had replaced Chakra as the new Indra because he had conquered all the three lokas, including Deva lokas. One day, disguised as a mendicant, Chakra, that is Indra, the actual Indra, appeared before Prahalada and said that he had come to learn from him what Shreyas is. Shreyas, as you know, is what is good, what leads to truly the Abhyudaya Nishreyasa, that is Shreyas. What leads to Nishreyasa specifically, that is Shreyas. What is truly good? The Emperor Prahalada said that he was very busy with administration of the three worlds and had not a moment to spare so as to teach him. The mendicant, that is Indra in the disguise of a sadhu, he stayed in palace nevertheless, attended on the emperor and pleased him so much with his devotion to him that one day the emperor said to him, "Ask for whatever you wish and it shall be given." Hearing the unsuspecting Prahalada to say this, Indra was waiting for such a moment. Finally, the moment was here wherein Prahalada had given away his cautious nature. However, Indra wanted to make certain. He did not want to lose this opportunity. So instead, he approached cautiously and he said, "You have already given me so much. The hearing to this humble response, Prahalada was even more pleased. So the emperor said, "Even so, ask." And then Indra struck. Indra said, "If you are pleased with me and wish to do good to me, then grant me that I have your Sheela." You see what Indra did? He initially came to Prahalada with a request for teaching about Shreya. But when Prahalada, pleased by many days or perhaps many months of service by the Indra disguised as sadhu and lowered his guard finally and asked him, what do you want? What do you wish? Because in a typical fashion of a ruler, the two of a Asura emperor, he said, he did not say, "What do you want to learn?" He said, "What do you wish? It shall be given." So it was Prahalada was at the height of his power. So that one moment of unguarded promise or unguarded declaration became his undoing. Indra was waiting for this moment and he said, if you are pleased with me, then give me your Sheela. Prahalada was again pleased because he thought this person is not asking for wealth or power or anything else, but he's truly interested in Dharma, therefore he's asking for Sheela. Now, however, Prahalada had a gut feeling that there was a fear in this gut feeling that he said he felt something was odd. Nevertheless, because he was the emperor and he had given his word, he said, be it so. And afterwards, the mendicant, the Indra disguised as a sadhu, he left. After the sadhu left, Prahalada immediately felt an inner disquiet. And he could not make sense of it because he was always completely resonated with his self. He was a great devotee, Prahalada, so he was always settled in his conviction. But suddenly there was an inner disquiet. Just then, a column of light in a human form emerged from Prahalada's body. Astonished, he asked, who are you? The answer came, I am Sheela, who until now was inseparable from you. But since you have given me away, now I am leaving you. And the light vanished. Just a few moments later, another column of light emerged from Prahalada's body and said, I am Dharma. I too am leaving you, for I live where Sheela lives. So Dharma said, I follow Sheela. Wherever Sheela is there, Dharma is also there. So since you have given away Sheela and Sheela has left, I am Dharma. And likewise, in quick succession, 3 more lights emerged, and they were truth, good conduct, and strength, each of which said that they followed the other. The truth said that I follow wherever Dharma is, and it also left. Good conduct said that it follows truth, and it also left. And strength said that it follows good conduct, and it also left. One after the other, Sheela, Dharma, Satya, Achara, good conduct, and Bala, strength, all of them left the emperor, Prahalada. The last to emerge from his body was a column of light, which was most effulgent of all of them. It had the greatest stages among all that left from Prahalada's body. And in the form of a woman, and it was in the form of a woman. So then Prahalada again asked, now who are you? And she said, I am Shri. All that which is desirable in human life, I am Shri. And as a Shri, I embody all that is desirable in a human life. I lived in you, but you have abandoned me, and therefore I too am leaving you, for I live where strength is. So clearly, here there is a pattern that is now emerging. Now, paralyzed with fear, Prahalada asked again to Shri, who was that sadhu, that Brahmana? I want to know the truth. Shri said, he was Shakra, the Indra, who robbed you of that effulgence of yours that had covered the 3 worlds. Shri said to Prahalada, it was through Sheela that you became what you were and had conquered whatever there is to conquer. And it is that which you gave away yourself. Before leaving him, his inner being now emptied, Shri said to him, Dharmaha satyam tatha vrittam balam chaiva tathapyaham Sheelamula Mahapragya Sada Nastat Sada Nastyatra Samshayaha. Very, very powerful words. Dharma, Satya, truth, Vrittam, wealth, Balam, strength, and I, that is Shri, prosperity. Shri is saying I. All of us are rooted in Sheela, Sheela Mula. Of that, there is no doubt. Na samshayaha. So this is a very, very important learning, very, very important teaching from Mahabharata, that only when one is rooted in Sheela, that all others, Dharma, Satya, Vritta, Bala, all of this stay with a person, or a person is able to acquire all of this. So you may recall the Parashara Smriti's definition of Dharma as Hita, and Swami Vidyaranya's definition saying that Dharma is the Hita because it is means to all our desired objects. It is an extension of that teaching itself, because Shri, as Mahabharata itself says, is that which is desirable in all human life. So the Shri, Dharma, Satya, Bala, Vritta, all of them are the elements which takes us to Shreyas. And all of this takes us to Abhyudaya Nishreyasa. And all of this are rooted in Sheela. So what is this Sheela then? Shanti Parva itself says what this Sheela is. Adroha sarvabhuteshu karmana manasa gira anugrahascha danam cha sheelametat prashasyate. Adroha, freedom from malice. Adroha sarvabhuteshu. Towards all beings of this universe, one should practice freedom from malice, freedom from droha, chala, droha. And this adroha should be practiced in karmana manasagra. It should be in action, thought, and speech. One should become always seated in one should develop anugrahascha. One should always have an attitude of anugraha towards others. Anugraha here means benevolence, compassion, kindness. And dhanam is another factor. One should always try to help others, share with others to the best ythashakti that is possible to one. Adroha, anugraha, and dana. So these are the three attributes of Sheela, or three aspects of practicing Sheela. Elsewhere in Manusmriti, in the second chapter, commentators, while commenting on verse 2.6 of Manusmriti, they have defined Sheela. Medatithi and Govindaraja defines Sheela as freedom from hatred and attachment. Raga Dvesha Parityajya. That is giving up freedom, giving up hatred and attachment. Raga Dvesha. Raga means I like this person. Dvesha is I don't like this person. So this kind of behavior you have to give up, and that is Shila. See, only when you give up such likes and dislikes, hatred and attachment, ragadveshadi, only then you can actually practice adroha. Only then you can be, your attitude can be firmly rooted in anugraha, in dana. Kullukabhatta elaborates on what Shila is by, he cites Harita's work, wherein Shila is further elaborated as a practice of Samanya Dharma. There it says Shila refers to Brahmana-like behavior, that is Sattvika behavior, a behavior which is free from Ragadvesha, that is Sattvika-like behavior, Bhakti or devotion to Devatas and Pitrus, kindness, humility, freedom from jealousy, sympathy, absence of cruelty, friendliness, agreeable speech, gratefulness, being prepared to grant shelter, help others, showing mercy, calmness. So in short, all these principles are basically, Shila refers to the Samanya Dharma principles, especially those which are focused on one's attitude towards others, one's relationship with others. That is what is Adroha, Anugraha, Dana is basically all about. So Shila is basically giving up this Ragadveshadi, Parityaja, giving up Ragadvesha, and developing Adroha, Anugraha, and Danam towards others, developing all the Sattvika attributes, rooting ourselves in our actions, always anchoring in Samanya Dharma, such as Ahimsa, Satya, friendliness, Daya, Dhamma, all these things. So that is what Shila is. And only such a life, such a developing such conduct and such thought process in life, you will be able to cultivate Shila, and through Shila you will be able to achieve everything else. The Dharma, the Satya, the Vrita, the Bala, and most importantly, the Shri. Now, we can move on further. I want to discuss another key idea, another very relevant teaching from Mahabharata, which is the balancing of the Purusharthas. So we have the 4 Purusharthas in Mahabharata Shanti Parva. Only this question was posed. Which Purushartha is most important? Now, in the context of the Shanti Parva discussion, there the question, initial question is about only the 3 Purusharthas, Dharma, Artha, Kama. And this question was put forward that which of them is most important? The conduct of the people. Yudhishthira opens up this discussion. He asks the question to his brothers as well as Vidura. The conduct of people, the acharana of the people is based on Dharma, Artha, Kama. Which of these is most important? Which is medium and which is least important? If one wish to conquer all the 3 categories together, which of these must one control? Please speak your thoughts. So basically the question boils down to which among Dharma, Artha, Kama is the primary Purushartha and which others spontaneously follow. Something like that. In response, we find a very interesting discussion. Vidura spoke first and he posited the primacy of Dharma. He posited the primacy of supremacy or prominent position of Dharma Purushartha and noted how the world was established in Dharma and how even Artha is submerged in Dharma itself. Therefore, he posited Dharma as supreme, Artha as medium, and Kama as the least important. However, Arjuna disagreed. Arjuna said he argued for primacy of Artha. He argued that all activities can be accomplished only through Artha, and hence without Artha, even Dharma and Kama cannot be acquired. This position is further upheld by Nakula Sahadeva, who tweaked this Arjuna's position to argue that both Artha and Kama are always united, therefore they are both are prominent and they should be pursued together. Kama will follow on its. So we had Vidura, who argued for the primacy of Dharma on the grounds that the Dharma is that which upholds all the universe, and therefore Artha, etc. is already submerged in Dharma itself. They have to follow Dharma, they have to be Artha and Kama, have to be anchored in Dharma, because Dharma upholds the world, therefore Dharma is the highest. Arjuna, on the other hand, argued from the perspective of the fact that even for performing the Dharma, we need to have resources. We need to have the power and capabilities, and that is what Artha is. So it is Artha which enables one to perform Dharma, enables one to perform Kama, therefore Artha is the highest. Nakula and Sahadeva said that no, Artha cannot be seen in isolation. Artha and Dharma are always united, therefore they have to be together pursued. Kama will follow. Bhima next speaks and he brings in another perspective. He says, Kama Purushartha is the highest. It is the primary Purusharthas because without Kama, there will not be any impulse at all to undertake any pursuits. So and further he adds that while Kama Purushartha is the highest, is the primary Purusharthas, the ideal is to pursue all the three Purusharthas in equal measure. Only then one can lead a full life. So the grounds on which Bhima is arguing for the primacy of Kama Purushartha is that without a desire in the mind, no action can be possible. Whether the good action or the bad action, whether you want to pursue Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, whatever is, you have to have this desire at the heart of it. Only then that pursuit will emerge. As such, being the very source of all forms of action, all forms of pursuit, this Kama Purushartha, therefore, Kama becomes supreme. But he also provides another perspective that while Nakula Sahadeva said only Artha and Dharma together should be pursued together, Bhima said that no, all the three Purusharthas have to be pursued in equal measure if we want to live a full life. Finally, Yudhishthira puts forward his position on the issue. He notes that there is a fourth Purushartha called Moksha, which is distinct from the Trivargas, Dharma, Artha, Kama, and which is the real supreme Purushartha because it frees us from all demerits, all papam, all bondage, all dualities like Sukha and Dukkha, Swarga and Naraka. It truly gives us eternal, infinite Ananda, liberates us from this cycle of birth and death. So if you just ponder about these arguments, all of them are correct from their own position. Each of these Purusharthas, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, can be understood as the primary Purushartha, as the most prominent Purushartha. from the perspective of how they function. It depending upon from where we are seeing, from the perspective of what upholds the entire universe, dharma is primary. From the perspective of that to even practice dharma or kama, we need to have the capability, the power, the resources. Then artha becomes the primary. From the perspective of the fact that even to pursue any action, any purushartha, we must have the impulse, that desire to begin with. Therefore, kama becomes the primary purushartha. Or from the perspective of the fact that the ultimate liberation from this all dualities, all this sukha dukkha adivi happens in moksha. The moksha is a supreme purushartha. So the idea is very clear. It is not to be hung upon saying that only this purushartha is important, that is not important. In the traditional, commonly accepted format, dharma is placed first as the most primary purushartha, and moksha is placed last as the highest purushartha, and artha and kama is embedded between them, as artha and kama is to be pursued within the confines, within the principles of dharma. And that is a very, very valid position. But we need not deny other aspects, other perspectives, because we should not pursue life in a fragmented manner. There should be a united pursuing of purusharthas, a balancing of purusharthas. Only then the life will be meaningful. As Mahabharata and Vana Parva says, fragmented, whose dharma is limited to dharma alone, is not a perceptive person, creating for himself only strife and creating for himself only strife. He does not know the meaning of dharma, just as a person who is blind cannot know the brightness of the sun. Fragmented, whose pursuit of wealth is for the sake of wealth alone, does not know the substance of wealth. He is only its keeper, just as a shepherd is a keeper of cattle in the woods. Similarly, he who is occupied in pleasures alone loses his friends and remains deprived of dharma and material prosperity as well. So this brings out very clear that one should not pursue only one purushartha in life, but focus on all of them. Therefore, those who are wise are never careless in matters of concerning dharma or artha, for it is for them together that the pleasure comes. When they are together, the kama also comes. Fragmenting dharma from kama for artha, and them from desire for sexual pleasure, that is then them from kama, one should not procure only one of them. One should enjoy all of them always without separating one from the others. So this is the teaching, and we might add to this from some other texts also, which says that the ideal is to pursue dharma, artha, kama together. In any situation, we should try to fulfill all the three check boxes. However, if in some situation it is only possible to tick 2 checkbox out of the 3, then the Shastra says you have to leave out kama and focus on dharma and artha. If there is a situation, then only one can be chosen and not the other two. Then you have to choose dharma ideally, is what the Shastra said. But we all know in our life circumstances, complicated circumstances, we also have this notion of the apad dharma, right? Wherein in the times of distress, the normal principles of dharma, the normal tenets of dharma cease to function, in the sense that one becomes unable to practice dharma. Then for the sake of artha kama, one may take refuge in some other forms of generalized samanya dharma, but otherwise the specialized dharmas one will have to give up because of distress in the artha kama front. So that is also there in life, right? So these understanding sheds brings in lot of dimensions, lot of more nuance to the discussion. Now, one more key idea I want to discuss for this session, and then we'll wrap it up, is this: the Mahabharata presents very interesting aspects, the chain of adharma, the chain of dharma. So it gives us a clear chain of psychological causation. So these are meant for us to do a self-introspection, to be aware of our own failings, to be aware of our own pitfalls, so that we can avoid them. So it gives a clear chain of psychological causation in this form of, given this, that must arise. You have this gives rise to this then gives rise to this. So we'll consider two such chains that Mahabharata indicates. The one is the chain of greed or lobha, which is basically the chain of adharma. The second is the chain of dhamma, that is self-control, which is the chain of dharma. Greed and dhamma are opposite forces. Greed comes naturally to us in the sense that we all come with our Arishad Vargas. Our minds are afflicted by the Arishad Vargas, the Kama, Krodha, Moha, Lobha, Mada, Matsarya. And the solution to transcend greed, because greed is essentially unrestrained pursuit of desires, pleasures. The antidote to that is restrainment, self-control, dhamma, control of our indriyas, control of our manas. So what is this chain of greed? We have this in Shanti Parva. I will just directly read out these verses, and their meaning is obvious. From greed arises every conceivable act of harm to oneself and to others, and to the great pain and suffering thereby. So that is why greed is adharma, because it leads to eventually great pain and suffering. So how does this happen? From greed arises anger, confusion, egoism, and intolerance, shamelessness, loss of prosperity, worry, and ill reputation. You see the series of things that greed can bring about. From greed arises anger, and thereby confusion and egoism and intolerance, and then shamelessness, that is loss of shila, shamelessness, loss of prosperity, worry, and ill reputation. From greed arises miserliness, excessive thirst, that is thirst for sensory objects, arrogance of one's high family, arrogance of learning, arrogance of beauty, arrogance of plentiful wealth, all kinds of arrogance, aggression, disrespect, distrust, and deviousness towards all beings. If you ask how does greed leads to arrogance, it is that when there is lot of greed and you act upon that greed, so greed leads to excessive thirst, great impulse to acquire more and more. And when you act upon it, you acquire more and more. then obviously the arrogance also will come. I am such a great person, I have so many things. So there is a very interesting story from Ganesh Purana, if I am not mistaken, that Kubera, because of his owning, he is the lord of wealth, right? So because of that, he developed great arrogance, great ego about his wealth. And he wanted to display to everyone his wealth. Therefore, he did a great bhojanam, hosted a bhojanam and invited all the devatas to show off. Then Ganapati taught him a lesson by continuing to eat for months together and emptying the treasury of Kubera, only to make him realize that all this wealth and is also temporary. There is no need to be have this ghamand or have this arrogance about wealth. So then Shanti Parva says, forceful possession of wealth of others and rudeness to their women, onslaught of forceful speech and will, onslaught of tendency to speak ill of others, hatred, self-praise. So see, all these are following one after the other. Greed leads to thirst, thirst leads to arrogance, arrogance leads to aggression, disrespect, etc. It will lead one to forcefully possess wealth of the others, be harsh in speech, hatred, self-praise, dangerous acts, doing adharma, what not to be done. All of them eventually arise from greed. In greed arises the mighty onslaught of envy and jealousy. You see, where there is lobha, there is also jealousy, envy, irsha. And in greed, the mighty onslaught of falsehood and lies, that is Anruta, is also there. Then follows the onslaught of physical illness, and then the dreadful. Somebody has kept his audio on. Can you please switch off your audio? And then follows the onslaught of physical illness, and then the dreadful onslaught of death. So from greed followed thirst. From greed arises anger, confusion, egoism, intolerance, shamefulness, loss of property, worry, and ill reputation. And eventually all of them leading to illness and death, depression, illness, and death. Or from greed arises thirst, thirst leads to arrogance, arrogance leads to aggression, hatredness, and it leads to the performance of adharmic activities, being immersed in envy and jealousy, being completely filled with falsehood and lies, and all this eventually leads to the fall of an individual through depression, through the karma phala when it strikes, leads to physical illness and eventually death itself. Shanti Parva further says in another place, ignorance is the root cause of avidya. Avidya is the root cause of lobha, greed, and greed feeds on this ignorance. So long as one exists, the other must exist also. See what a wonderful material to reflect upon. We have to self-introspect on this, where we are, how developed the greed within us is, and how can we make corrections, corrective measures to control greed. So without this self-awareness, how this greed can act in multiple ways, can play havoc to our mind in multiple ways. Without this idea, we will always be misdiagnosing any problem, and we will not be able to resolve it. Now, let us come to this chain of Dhamma, the chain of Dharma of Dhamma. This is also in Shanti Parva. Shanti Parva says, according to their understanding, different sages and thinkers have given not one but many different answers to the question, what is the best dharma? However, self-discipline, dhamma means self-discipline, that is control and restrainment of our own senses and the mind. This dhamma remains the basis of all of them, all the dharmas. There is there in this world no dharma greater than the conquest of the self. The one who has brought his self under control sleeps a peaceful sleep and awakes with a sense of peace. He walks with a feeling of happiness, and in his heart is always joyfulness. In contrast, the one who has not brought his self under control is full of agitation always. Besides, he keeps creating more disorders from ones that exists in him already. You see, contrary to greed and unrestrained pursuit of desires, wherein a person is always in a state of anxiety, always in a state of agitation, which leads to other problematic mental ideas such as arrogance, distrust, jealousy, and makes one take recourse to falsehood and any form of corruptions creep into the mind and our actions. There is no peace, there is no happiness, no calmness. We are always in a state of anxiety, which is what eventually leads to illness, misery, sorrow, and depression and death. Contrary to that, when the mind is in control, when the desires are not allowed to run havoc, instead, even if you're pursuing desires, it is pursued in a very restrained and conscious manner. When your indriyas are always kept under check, then you can have a peaceful sleep and you can have a peaceful time even when you're awake. There is happiness, there is contentment in your heart. There is no depression, no agitation, no insecurity, no jealousy in the heart. So Shanti Parva elaborates this further, says the conquest of the self leads to forgiveness and reconciliation, to patience, to non-violence, to an attitude of equanimity, samadrishtitva, to truth, to simplicity of character, control over one's physical senses, gentleness, modesty, generosity, freedom from anger, to a feeling of contentment, pleasant speech, and not seeking fault of others. These are the manifestations of conquest of self. It's very clear that when you have yourself under control, when you're conscious always of your desires, of your inner tendencies, and you keep them in check, you control them. The Manusmriti uses an interesting term called Tridandi. He says a person should be a Tridandi, where Danda refers to Dhamma, that is control of our actions, control Kaya, Vacha, Manasa. These are called as Tridanda. Control of actions, control of words, control of thoughts. And one who has all the three under control is a Tridandi. It is such a Tridandi, such a person, being as it is that he is always in a state of calm and peacefulness, being as it is that he is not swayed by the desires, he does not let the desires to play havoc in his mind, he is able to give up ragadvesha. Therefore, he is able to develop daya, adroha, asteya, ahimsa, and all these characters that we just listed. Who has conquered his self has feelings of friendship towards all, dignity of conduct, cheerfulness, and self-knowledge. Himself free from fear, above all, he brings for others freedom from fear. Having an attitude of equality towards all beings, he has feelings of friendship for all. So, see, and again in the Manusmriti, there is a statement that a Brahmana is one who has Maitri Bhava towards everyone, who is friend of all, who has no ill will towards anybody. So, what is that Brahmana that is referred there? It is this Samatva, it is this development of Dhamma, this Tridandi. So, this Sattva brings all of this. So, self-control is at the very heart of a Dharmika life. It is the means, it is the weapon that makes attainment all of our other values possible. Attainment of Shila possible. That is why self-control is very, very important. To conclude, some of the Mahabharata, as I mentioned, at many places dwells upon different tenets of Dharma, different attributes of Dharma. I have listed some of them, some Dharma Lakshanas that Mahabharata dwells upon in relation to one's own self as well as in relations to others. That is, some principles of Dharma are basically our own individual practice. Some are practices which has a bearing on our interaction with others. So, tenets such as Satya, truthfulness, Dhamma, self-control, Shaucha, inner purity, cleanliness and purity, both inner and out, external. Arjava, lack of deviousness. Hri, endurance. Achapalam, resoluteness of character. Dana, giving. Tapas, austerity. Brahmacharya, celibacy and self-control. So these are all individual practices. We are working on our own self for our own chitta shuddhi, for developing Shila in our own self. Whereas there are other Dharma Lakshanas which has a bearing, more greater bearing on our interaction with others, our relationship with us, such as ahimsa, not to violate others' beings, not to cause injury to others. Samata, an attitude of equity and equanimity to others, that is samadrishtitva. Acting, giving this samadrishtitva is all about giving up ragadvesha in our dealing with others. This does not mean that we see everything as we completely give up all forms of distinctions present on the world. It is not that a person who has samadrishtitva or samata, he will treat a criminal as well as a victim as the same person, as the same. It is not like that. Rather, he recognizes that all of us, the good, the bad, the ugly, everybody has a spark of divine in them, is basically a manifestation of that Parabrahman. And they are all the Jivatmas working out their own karmas. So there is deep compassion. As such, in his mind there is no ragadvesha towards anybody. However, in the Vyavahara, he nevertheless, it is not that he makes a murderer as equal to a victim. No. Instead, because of his samatva, he will be able to give proper advice to both the murderer as well as a victim for facilitating their own Abhyudaya Nishresa. That is what a guru ideally is, right? He can give proper upadesha to anybody and everybody, and himself, he is not guided by ragadvesha. It is not that I like this person, I like how he dresses, so let me give him good upadesha. I don't like this person, so let me give him bad upadesha. It is not like that. Shanti, peace and tranquility. Lack of aggression and cruelty, anrishamsya. Amatsarya, absence of envy. Daya, compassion. See, all these are dharma lakshanas. Some are more self-focused. Some are focused on how we engage with the world. So, with this this current discussion on dharma and dharma shastra completes from my side. I encourage all of you to check out my works. I have 2 books on dharma. One is Samanya Dharma, which is a very small booklet. The other is the latest one, Chatushloki Manusmriti. It is more exhaustive. So I have just shared the link to my latest book. The other one also is available on Amazon. You can type in for Samanya Dharma. Do look into it and do reflection upon it for greater understanding. Thank you very much. Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Any questions? I am happy to.
Thank you, Sridhar Garu, for a very nice session today again. The story of Prahlada is a very, I think people didn't know about Prahlada and this part of the story. Prahlada is known as a great worshipper of Narayana. And the other important aspect is that the Dhamma, which is the very important factor. Very nice. Thank you very much. And now, anyone has any question can raise their hand and ask. And I request Sridharji, if you can share your PPTs.
Yes, I will send them. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Anyone has any question, please? Yes, Lakshmi Khanapur Garu.
Namaskaram, Guruji. So, as you have said, that Prahlada has lost his Shriya to Indra in a deceit. Was he able to reconquer his Shriya? I'd just like to know about it and how.
I'm not sure. We have to follow the actual story.
Okay.
I don't recall. I don't remember whether the story continues further also. So
Okay.
please look into the Mahabharata.
Okay, actually, even I did not hear, as sir said just now, about this part of the story.
So that story,
Yes, sir.
it appears in, I'll just reshare that, where that story appears. So it is in
Okay.
Shanti Parva, chapter 124.
Okay,
So
okay.
so you have to check in Shanti Parva. So again, these are may not be full stories.
Yeah.
There would be certain point they will stop the stories because they are narrating for purpose of teaching dharma.
Teaching,
right?
yeah, teaching, yeah. So nice of you, sir. Very nice explanation, and a lot of things we have learned from this session. Thank you very much. Dhanyawad.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, Padmavati Garu.
Namaskaram, Guru Gar. Regarding Danda, Tridandi, Danda means Dhamma control, Kaya, Vacha, Manasa, action, words, thoughts. All sages and saints like that only. But what is the difference between all those great sages and Tridandi Chinnajir Swami, etc.?
I'm not sure I understood your question. Can you repeat what
Why
exactly?
we are not calling them Tridandi? Because
Calling
Vivekananda
whom?
is good.
Calling whom?
Swami.
No, I think there is a fundamental confusion here. See, the Tridanda Sannyasa that you are speaking about, he appears in a particular sampradaya in a particular context, right? So there the Tridanda is in the Vaishnava sampradaya, it is a particular sannyasa sampradaya. Just like we have among the Smartas, we have the Ekadanda sannyasa, Dandi sannyasa. So that is a very different thing. In the Manusmriti, where the term Tridanda is used, it is not in the context of sannyasa. It is context of Dhamma itself. It is saying that any individual, if we want to attain Siddhi in life, that is, Siddhi means a success. So here Siddhi means attainment of Abhyudaya Nishreyasa. If he wants to lead a fulfilling life and develop Chitta Shuddhi, etc., then he has to develop 3 forms of control. That is control over our actions, control over thoughts, and control over our speech. And this control is called as Vakdanda, Manasdanda, Kayadanda, that is Tridanda. So here it is in the Manusmriti, it is used in the not in the context of sannyasa, but in the context of Dhamma. So this is the same terms can be used in different places in different contexts. So we don't need to conflate them.
Yeah.
ధన్యవాదాలు గురువు
Thank
ధన్యవాదాలు
you. Dumpala Anjaneya garu, you can unmute and ask your question. Yeah,
Sorry,
Dumpala
what is
Anjaneya garu.
the role of free will of karma?
If I remember correctly, we did answer this in the last week, right? I might be mistaken. This eternal question about fate versus free will. But let me just briefly answer this again. See, the very questioning is what is problematic, because when you say that there is fate, there is one entity called fate and one entity called free will, only then there is a question of contradiction or opposition between them. But in reality, there are no 2 entities. There is only one entity called karma. The actions you performed in the previous lives, that is karmas you did previously, now bears the fruit. Karma phala fructifies on the ground, manifests on the ground, and this manifestation of karma phala is what we call as free will, what we call as fate. And the actions we take today in response to the situations created by our Purva Janma karma, the actions that we take today is free will. So karma performed in the past, which is giving phala today, is fate. Karma which is we are performing today in response to situations that arises due to past, and which in turn will give phala in the future, is free will, right? There is no contradiction. There is only about time of performance. What we call fate is the karma performed in the past. What we call free will is karma we are doing today.
Now, can I ask the
Yeah,
question?
yeah,
please?
Jewish and Lakshmi garu, you can ask.
I just want to know, after this is a wonderful lecture we had today, and almost all the concepts are very perfectly explained. But I just want to know how self-control. Self-control is very good. It gives us peace, happiness, and everything, as you said. And the man who has got self-control is always happy, always peaceful, and nothing can disturb him. But in the modern world, is it important to have self-control and feel that everything is okay if that is disturbed with by the people in the society through their actions? We have self-control. That self-control, should it be to that extent that we should not be affected by anything outside in the world?
So I think this is a fundamental misunderstanding about what self-control is. You are
Yes.
misconflating self-control with aloofness.
Okay.
So self-control is not about aloofness. Self-control is about not letting your emotions, your desires play havoc in your mind. It is as simple as that. It is not allowing your indriyas to have a open field without any control, without any restrainment. Self-control is not that we shut off our eye to what is happening around us and we shut ourselves in our rooms. So that is not self-control, right? One can
Yes.
live in a forest outside of all the world. Still, one could be unable to attain self-control because we are in the grip of our Arishat Vargas, grip of our Indriyas. Our desires can play havoc even if we are living isolated life, separated from all the society. So self-control is not about living in society or outside of the society. Self-control is not about feel-good factor. Oh, I will somehow feel happy. No, it is not that. It is not about feeling happy, feeling good. What it is, its self-control is about overcoming ragadvesha, overcoming arishat varga through restrainment on our mind and the senses. So the ultimate aim, of course, is vairagya. We have to develop vairagya, only then you can pursue moksha. But even this vairagya, which is dispassion towards worldly objects, has to come naturally. It is not an artificial imposition. And even this vairagya, when it comes naturally, also does not imply that there is a aloofness or complete non-involvement with the world. There could be for some, there could be for some people, based on their own prarabdhas, their own inner disposition, and that is absolutely okay. But somebody like there are hundreds of siddhas who rarely come to the society, who do sadhana tapas in some Himalayas, and that is absolutely fine. But there are also many, say, like Ramana Maharshi, who live among us, but who are not bound by these fetters of the samsara. We have many like that. But there are also many like Adi Shankaracharya, who was very, very active, who had a divine mission. So it is all, there is no one way as highway. It could be many things. But the point here is self-control is not, does not lead to the aloofness that you have mistaken. Self-control is all about a developing samatva, developing samadrishtitva, developing what Bhagavan Krishna calls as Krita Pragyatva. Not allowing our emotions to play havoc, not allowing our ragatvesha to play havoc, not allowing our desires to play havoc.
Okay, that is in relation to our own self.
See, it is everything boils down to our own self also.
Self only, yes.
Right? See, we cannot change the world. Let us not be in the delusion that somehow we can change the world. We can only change ourselves. And through our actions, through our inspiration, many others may change themselves, but we cannot change the world. This is a reformistic attitude that we have all developed, that somehow we think that we can change the world. But the fact is we can only change ourselves. And even when we are working for the world, Loka Kalyanam also, even then what is in our control is our own actions, not the action of somebody else. See, all this reform through coercion, it has only resulted in more violence. It has not resulted in any Abhyudaya Nishreyasa for anybody.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
I
thank
understood.
you.
So, yeah, thank you so much for that wonderful lecture we had today. It was very, very informative and very nice. Yes. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Good.
Sridhar Patarji.
Yeah, my question is, thank you for the opportunity for asking question. My question is that sannyas, is there any mention about the dharma for sannyas ashram? Because everywhere that I found in Bhagavad Gita, for example, yajna jnana tapa karma na tyajya karma karyam evatat. And then here also you mentioned tasmat dharmartha nityam na pramadayanti panditaha. So all this, and if you look at the Vedic lifestyle, rishis were married and everything was there. So this concept of sannyas appears to be a very recent development, and similar and following a Buddhism kind of approach where that sannyas was introduced. So is there any mention of sannyas in the Mahabharata and Dharma associated with the sannyas ashram? Because it appears to be non-dharmic when we say that, yajna dana tapa karma na tyajyam. And that is clear from the Bhagavad Gita. And then he says that this has to be performed. So I'm trying to understand the dharma for a sannyasi.
Okay. Excellent question. See, basically, this whole idea that somehow we copied from Buddhism, all this arises because of lack of more engagement with the Dharma Shastra text. And that is why there is a misunderstanding. Somehow we followed Buddhists. If anything, the Buddhists followed us. So we should keep aside the historicist perspective. And sannyasa is mentioned everywhere. So in the way, there are sannyasa Upanishads. See, in the Upanishads, in the Dasha Upanishad itself, you will find sannyasa. In the Mundaka Upanishad, there is a clear statement about when the student has this vairagya, etc., and he has to take this, the sticks, and there is a particular term, I'm not recalling that. He has to take this to a Brahmanishta and Guru and give it to him, asking for instruction. So that is clearly how the sannyasa is taken. There are certain Upanishads called Sannyasa Upanishads itself. There are as many as 108 Upanishads, and of them there is a class of Upanishads called Sannyasa Upanishads. And within the Dashopanishad, the main 10 Upanishads, sannyasa is present everywhere. The very opening verse of Ishavasya Upanishad is an indication of sannyasa. Ishavasyam idam sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bunjitaha nakasya siddhanam tena tyaktena bunjitaha. You have to renounce. Tyaga. Now, there is Grihastha Dharma and there is Sannyasa Dharma. In the introduction to Bhagavad Gita Bhashya, Shankaracharya says, at the beginning, two types of dharma were revealed. One was Pravritti Dharma, one was Nivritti Dharma. So the Pravritti Dharma was embodied by Prajapati and others, that is Grihastha Dharma, the Yajna, etc. that you mentioned. The other is Nivritti Dharma embodied by Sanaka Sanandana, that the four Kumaras are there, right? Sanat Kumara and Sanaka Sanandana, I forgot all the four names. So they embody the Nivritti Dharma. There are stories in all the Puranas and all how when this Sanat Kumaras and all were born, they immediately took to sannyasa. We have the example from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad wherein Yagyavalkya Rishi, who was married, he had two wives, and then he gave one wife all the wealth and everything, and then he took sannyasa, and the other wife, I think Maitreyi, followed him as his shishya, despite even after Yagyavalkya taking up sannyasa. So it's and in the Dharma Shastra specifically, in the Manusmriti, for example, there is an entire section on sannyasa dharma, wherein different types of sannyasas are also mentioned. There are specific sannyasa related texts which gives lot of details. Paramahamsa sannyasas, Tridandi sannyasa, Ekadandi sannyasa, Parivrajaka sannyasa. So this is not a new thing at all. This is not a new development at all. Sannyasa is a very old institution, and sannyasa as a Shastriya concept is also very old. Yes, Grihastha Dharma has its own importance because it is the support of the entire world, and sannyasa was supposed to be only for a select few, not for entire society. And even today that is the case. Even though there are more modern institutions that give some form of renunciation, it may not be fully adherent to the traditional notion of sannyasa, that is fine. There are many modern institutions that give renunciation of one kind or the other. But even then, the number of people taking that renunciation compared to the rest of the society who are grihasthas is very small. Right? So, but that does not mean sannyasa is not it. In fact, the Dharma Shastra, the Shastriya prescription is that from Brahmacharya, if you have Vairagya, you can directly take sannyasa. You don't need to even go through this grihastha etc. Only if you do not have this Vairagya, then you have to go through this grihastha and then vanaprastha to develop that Vairagya to eventually take sannyasa. And if, of course, you don't develop Vairagya in this life, then you will not take sannyasa at all. So that is the format. The traditional format of Brahmacharya and then Grihastha, then Vanaprastha and then Sannyasa is also very, very clearly mentioned in the Smriti Shastras. You have it in Mahabharata, etc. also. In Mahabharata, we had even Sulabha, who practiced asceticism, who did not marry anybody. You have this case of, what was her name? Of course, in Veda and all, you have the case of Gargi, etc., the great Brahmavadini who might not have married. There is one more person not unable to recall in Mahabharata. She was married thrice. So it is a Madhavi, her name is Madhavi. Very interesting story from Mahabharata, wherein she had a blessing on that every time after the birth of the child, she will recover her virginity. So when Galava, who was a student of Vishwamitra, he wanted to give some Guru Dakshina to the teacher. And Vishwamitra said, I don't need Guru Dakshina. But Galava kept pestering him. So Vishwamitra, in anger, said, get me some 800 cows of a particular variety. Now, that is a very rare variety of cows, very difficult to get. So Galava goes to very different kings, asking for bhiksha of these cows. But nobody had all the 800. One person said, no, see, I have only 200 cows. This was, I think, Yayati. I think Madhavi's daughter or something. I think it was Yayati. I'm not sure. I think she was daughter of, he was daughter of her. So she said, she said to her father, look, I have this boon. So since you don't have the cows at all, why don't you give me as dana to that Galava, so that he can do Ganyadana of me to different kings and then take the cows from there. Anyways, I have this boon that I will get back my virginity after the birth of a son. So Galava, this was her suggestion. Mind you, this was a suggestion of Madhavi herself. It was not something imposed on her, contrary to all the feminist interpretation. And Galava then took her to different kings and asked them for this cows. He took them to 3 kings. Each of them gave him 200 cows, and Madhavi bore a son to each of them. And after bearing a son, she reclaimed her Kanya Avastha. The remaining 200 was still short, and she was then given to Vishwamitra, married to Vishwamitra. And she bore a son to Vishwamitra also. And then she returned back to her father. And as I said, she regained her virginity again. And her father wanted to marry her now, properly. Finally, not in return for as a transaction, but in a proper manner. But she said, I will choose nature itself as my husband, and she took to the path of tapasya. She became a tapaswini. She became a ascetic. And later the story goes on, later when Yayati fell from Swarga, she through her tapasya and through her sons, through the different kings, they were able to restore him. So there are many other stories there. We won't need to go. The point is, she was a great tapaswini. And this is a very interesting story that it has boggled the mind of all people. And there are many nuances, many criticisms, as well as many nuances of dharma here. The point is, eventually, she also took to the path of tapasya. We may not call it sannyasa in the formal sense, but it is also a form of sannyasa in the sense of a renunciation. So the renunciation is a very, very well-established concept, both in the formal sense of a sannyasa as well as in the informal sense of asceticism. However, the key here is sannyasa as a sannyasa, for renunciation to happen, vairagya is very important. If there is no vairagya, then you are incurring papam. So that we know from Mahabharata, from the story of Jagatkaro. I'm not sure that I spelled the name correctly. Was it Jagatkaro, or there was some version of that name? So the story is, he was a ascetic who was Jagatkaro. Sorry, it was named Jagatkaro. He was an ascetic who was performing great intense tapasya. But he was not married. But he had not also taken formal sannyasa. He was did not have that vairagya, but he was a great ascetic. So he was advised, look, all your ancestors are suffering in the other lokas because you are not, you have given up your duty. That is, we have all these three rinas, Rishi Rina, Pitru Rina, and all those. So you've given up your Pitru Rina, you're not performing it. You have to bear a son to be able to free your ancestors, Pitrus, from suffering. And he was told, who will marry me, he asked. He said, there is one person by sharing the same name as you. Her name is also called Jagatkaro. Go find her, you can marry her. So this Jagatkaro, she was actually a Naga. She was, I think, daughter of Vasuki, the Naga king, the one of the Naga kings. You have some 8 or 10 Naga kings. Important of them is Vasuki, Adishesha, and Takshaka, right? So Vasuki's daughter, I think she was, daughter or sister, I'm not, see the details, I don't recall correctly. They were married and he had a son, great son. And again, what was the son's name? Astika. The son's name was Astika. So this way, Jaratkaru, the tapasvi, he had a son, he became free of that papam, and then he went back to his asceticism again. So there he was not a sannyasi, but he was an ascetic. So, so we have to differentiate between formal sannyasa and informal forms. And this Astika also plays a very important role. Later, when Janamejaya performs this yagya to as revenge for the death of his father Parikshita at the hands of Takshaka, he does the Sarpasatra, wherein and he wants to destroy the entire Sarpakula. Even Takshaka, who hid himself in the Indra's behind Indra's asana, Simhasana, he was also, the Indra's throne was also dragged into the fire by the power of the Yagya, Sarpasatra. And Takshaka was about to be killed. And then Astika intervenes and he stops. So Vastik also plays very good role. So and these are many interconnected, interesting stories. The point essentially comes that sannyasa is a very old idea, but there is this grahastha versus sannyasa is also a big debate. We had that debate between Mandana Mishra and Shankaracharya also, a Mimamsaka versus a Vedantin debate. So this is a very old debate, but sannyasa itself is not new. It has the great Shastriya precedence. It is not borrowed from Buddhists.
Yeah, thank you very much for a wonderful answer. Actually, you have kind of solved all my doubts. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sridhar garu. I mean, it was a very nice session of 5 days, 5 sessions, and except from Mahabharata. And many doubts, fundamental doubts have been cleared, and many students have posted their messages also that a lot of their doubts have been cleared. And thank you very much for this nice 5-day session. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Babu garu, now Pradhana.
Okay. ధన్యవాదములండి శ్రీధర్ గారు. Thank you so much on behalf of the complete course and also behalf of Veda Samskruti Samiti and Vishwa Yoga Vidyapeeth, of which, AHP Rao Garu and Prabhu Garu, on behalf of all of them and our team, we thank you for taking the lectures well planned, well before, and in spite of your busy schedule, which you could not take the classes in the beginning of the course, so you have asked for in the fag end of the course. So, but let me thank you for making it available to us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now, with your permission, we'll try to close with Prarthana and then national anthem. Jayasri garu, please.
నమస్తే ధన్యవాదాలు గురుగారు, చాలా బాగుంది లెక్చర్. ఓకే. స్వస్తి ప్రజాభ్యః పరిపాలయంతాం న్యాయేన మార్గేణ మహిమహీషాః గోబ్రాహ్మణేభ్యः శుభమస్తు నిత్యం లోకాः సమస్తాः సుఖినో భవంతు కాలే వర్షతు పర్జన్యः పృథివీ సస్యశాలినీ దేశోऽयं क्षोभरहितो ब्राह्मणः सन्तु निर्भयाः अपुत्रः पुत्रिणः सन्तु पुत्रिणः सन्तु पौत्रिणः अधनाः सधनाः सन्तु जीवन्तु शरदां शतं सत्यं वद धर्मं चर स्वाध्यायान् मा प्रमदः सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्. ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते. ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. सर्वे जनाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्त सन्मङ्गलानि सन्तु. స్వస్తి. ధన్యవాదాలు గురుగారు.
ధన్యవాదములండి జయశ్రీ గారు.
ధన్యవాదాలు సార్.
Now we'll go for national anthem. Chala Chittibabu garu, please.
जनगणमन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंधु गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्छल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तब शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तब जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे जय
జై హింద్. ధన్యవాదములండి చల్లా చిట్టిబాబు గారు. Now I'll stop the recording.